Hello everyone and welcome back to School. So, in our last episode, we managed to get, well, firstly, in the stream, which I'm having a tremendous amount of time editing, so I'm afraid that might be quite a ways past due, we got Polar Explorer, we got Polar Explorer Kringle, our first plane, whose landing gear consisted of extending legs, which was rather amusing, to the North Pole, or at least very, very, very close to it. I'd call that pretty damn close. And before that, in our last actual episode, we got the probe Rudolph orbiting at an altitude of 562 odd meters, an altitude of 6,000 meters, though, reading the velocity. And I didn't take that any lower before it starts clipping into the terrain, because the Poodle engine on it is actually a little too strong. In fact, it's so strong that I'm reasonably certain that we can get a probe to land using the Poodle engine as thrust. So with that in mind, our job for today is to try and actually land a robotic probe on the moon. And to that end, I've designed RL Moon 1, Remote Lander for the Moon, first model. Okay, so let's switch that to launch, and I can explain a little bit of what this thing has in it. Now, we have updated to 0.23, which means that once we use some of these parts, say the Science Junior and the goo containment units, they will become inoperable until we can connect them to something a bit more useful. And evidently these struts have bulked out, but that's fine. They're not that hugely important, mostly for stability purposes. But we've still got our launch system, and we've got the Poodle in there, and what we're going to do is we're going to get that into a lower orbit, and then we're going to jettison it and use the smaller engine that's in here, the LV909, to kill our horizontal velocity and then slowly control our vertical velocity, which shouldn't take much because this thing can take off quite happily in curb and atmosphere and gravity, and the moon of course has no atmosphere and very little gravity. And then its purpose is to take all of the science it can, transmit it back, and hopefully from landing there'll be a fair bit, and then it will be able to use all of its lights around the ring here to function as a sort of a landing hotspot, a point on the moon that we can see and we can point out quite happily by the bright lights surrounding it. So, with that in mind, gird your ears. Okay. We're spinning quite a bit for once. I'm not quite sure what's causing that. Okay, so old fuel is eking away. We actually seem to be burning fairly efficiently. I wasn't expecting that. Oh, we are tilting a little bit. That's not good. Unless I can get us to point east. Okay, I think the lack of struts is causing us to become unstable. Okay, I'm going to see if I can fix those struts, which apparently got balked in the sub-assembly, And then hopefully that will resolve these stability issues. Okay, now we want those ideally connected as high as possible, but let's connect them to that decoupler, which should ever have a problem. Now hopefully that fixes the stability, because oh dear, was that bad. Now it should be noted that this probe is quite a bit heavier than the Rudolph probe, so that's probably partly to blame. Okay, here we go again. Okay, and that is much more stable. That's perfect. Right, a little bit of time acceleration whilst I whilst I get this out up into its second stage. And there is our first stage done. Let's just wait for those to get a little bit further away, and we're going to start tilting this towards about 90 degrees, if not more. And that will be our second stage, which will hopefully put us reasonably towards orbit. But of course we can now control this quite a bit better. So here goes nothing. Eesh, that zoom. That's interesting. This seems to rotate a lot easier when you're in map view for some reason. Not the foggiest idea why that's so. Okay, but we are doing quite well to perform a gravity turn here. And as that approaches 70, we need to hard turn towards this horizontal to minimize the amount that we have to do later. Okay, so there's that stage done. And now we mostly just need to pick up to finish our orbital insertion. Okay, that needs to go up. A little higher. A little more. 70 is our atmosphere. There we are. Okay, and that is 811 meters per second. We're actually still slightly in the atmosphere for all that, so it is climbing a little bit. But that should take us about a minute of thrusting. After that we shall see. We're a little bit floppy because we've got 1, 2, 3, I think, different bodies effectively due to the decouplers. But that takes place in a minute, so we'll fast forward a little bit. And we're approaching. We want to be about 27-28 seconds out before we start burning to equalize the burn on both sides of the maneuver. Oh, and we have less for the atmosphere. Okay, here we go. And thrusting once again. There we are. Whew. Had me worried for a second there. Okay, out she comes. And then we're going to aim for the moon. I have a sneaking suspicion we'll end up with enough delta V to make it a min-miss, but that'll be our next thing once I confirm it can at least make the moon. Because with the way this thing functions, we really only get the one chance. We can maybe dance around it in a few different ones, because we've got 5 items here. But I think we'll probably be best off dumping all of the science into a single biome and then coming back later with something that can move around a bit better. And we have nearly concluded here. Okay. Slow it down a bit so we can pick this up neatly. Let's call it there. Okay, perfect. And now we need to wait for the moon for us to be at about a 90 degree to the moon. Fortunately, we rotate quite a bit faster than he does. Okay, because we need to perform our maneuver such that the moon encounters. Oh, no, that's not what I want. I want to be digging that. Okay, so let's expand that. And there is our moon encounter, but that is quite a rough encounter, actually. Let's bring that down to a free return. Okay. And we need to be pointing... Let's get the full thing out there. We need to be pointing that way, and that is a 44-second burn, so that gives us 22 seconds either side. Fast forward, so that we can encounter it. All fairly standard stuff. There is the sun to recharge our batteries. We are coming down now. Okay. Just a little bit more. Realign ourselves with our point and fire again. Okay. Now this will probably exhaust the T30 there. I was going to say 909, but I think that's right. And that will then force us to switch to the poodle. There we go. Magnificent plate here coming out. The poodle is being meant for larger things, but we're sticking onto the smaller probes we've got here because it is so very efficient. Okay. And the cut. And let's get rid of that, and that looks perfect. So now we skip ahead to when we enter our moon encounter, and then we shall point towards our retrograde to get us into an orbit of it. Okay, there's the moon coming up behind us. We can see our satellites roaming around it. Okay, and we are now in an encounter with the moon, so we need to bring that down either to a very low orbit or to no orbit whatsoever. Now I think the minimum orbit around the moon that you can do is 7,000. So let's go with 7,000 there. Let's point it. That is an hour and 20 minutes away. And it's also a 9-second burn, so that's just like how powerful our poodle engine can be. So let's zoom ahead to that. And we still have plenty of fuel. Yeah, as I say, this poodle engine is redonkulous. We have a fuel canister in here, and the 909, that's what I was thinking of, which is going to be our landing engine. I'm not expecting this thing to come back, although who knows, it might be able to with the delta V is as low as his stays about as low as that. And there is our body. Ain't she pretty? Okay, that is 1 minute. And now we need to burn. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's bring that down. Okay, perfect. Now we skip ahead so that we can actually encounter it. I'm going to stick a maneuver. Just pause a second. Stick a maneuver around about the light side of the moon so that we can actually determine how much time we've gotten till we should start our deceleration, because our orbital velocity is going to pick up as we go around, as we near it, because smaller orbits move around faster than larger ones, which means you kind of really want a high orbit when you're doing this, but not much we can do about that. Okay, so keep increasing until it starts moving at a reasonable pace. Okay, that's 10 minutes out. Whoa, okay. Now we need to actually get to doing our maneuver. So we need to really slow down here, such that we are out of power because we are pointing away from the sun. Well, this is a failed mission. Note to self, stick some solar panels on the back of this poodle. (744 meters per second into the side of a mountain. Well, that's my own fault, but I guess we'll cover landing next episode. You gotta have a few issues. Bear in mind, something like 90% of craft that get shot out into space end badly. So, look at the success of Curiosity that way. Anyways, with that, we don't have time for me to do another launch, so I shall catch you all next time. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and or a favorite. Follow me on Twitter and subscribe to be notified of future updates. You can also check out the website where most other content is uploaded. That's all for now. Catch you later.